for the invocation, and congratulations. And the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Reed. Would you please stand?
Father God, we thank you for the occasion of this evening, Lord, and we come to your throne with humble hearts. Father, we thank you for the beauty of this day, the beautiful sunshine that we're enjoying, Lord. And we thank you for this beautiful community, these men and women who are willing to serve on this council. Father, we thank you for their sacrifice, their family's sacrifice as well. Father, they have difficult decisions before them tonight, and I ask that your wisdom and discernment be upon them. Bless this meeting, bless their decisions, give them peace in those decisions. Father, we thank you so much for these great dedicated employees that we have in this organization, Lord. We thank you so much for their service. And we also ask that your blessing be upon them, those who are manning the streets and on the ready tonight as we meet. Thank you for this great nation, the freedom we enjoy to assemble, and those who are willing to defend this nation and protect it. Guard and comfort them as well. We ask all of these favors in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody's a critic. I got criticized for chomping on my gum, so I lost my gum. Again, welcome to Midvale City Council. Our community-related announcement person is not here, so I'll start this off. I want to remind everybody that we've got a little party going on the 4th of July over at Joe B. Barnes Park, a tribute to Liberty. It's our annual fireworks display and concert. If you haven't been there in the last couple of years, you need to come out and enjoy it. It's a great time. It'll start around 5:30, 6 o'clock and go until we shoot all the fireworks. So please come out and join us for that. So going around the horseshoe, is there anything else to announce?
No, not really a community, but July 1st, which is Monday, the state legislature decided that we needed to carry our registration in our cars at the same time that we carry our insurance verification, because whatever, it's dumb, but it's a new law. We get to follow it, just letting you all know. I have no clue what my registration is. So get them in your car.
When did they do that?
Under Fallon, because she didn't think she had enough stuff to be in control of. I don't know. But it was voted in the 2018 legislature and it came into effect for this year.
Great.
It changed because you keep your license plate. I think would also be remiss if we didn't recognize the fact that this is the first night for both our new city manager and our new assistant city manager. We welcome both of them.
Thank you.
Speaking of that, the floor is yours, Mr. Lyon.
Good evening, everyone. I have some announcements. It's a fairly lengthy list here, but we'll run through this. June 28th is a senior health fair from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Senior Center. June 28th is the Mommy Son Luau. Starts at 7:30 and runs to 9:30 at the Reno Swim and Slide. Saturday, June 29th at Reno Swim and Slide will be featured on Discover Oklahoma at 6 p.m. on Channel 4. So tune into that or DVR that. On the week of the July 4th, residents whose trash would normally be picked up on Thursday will be picked up a day early, which is on Wednesday, July 3rd. So have your trash out for Wednesday, July 3rd. Those are on the Thursday routes. The mayor covered tribute to Liberty. Wednesday, July 10th, the Junior Golf League starts at John Conrad Golf Course. July 11th is a new event. It's called Sensory Friendly Night, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Community Center. It's designed for people with sensory needs. It's geared towards autistic children. It's a new event, and It'll focus on arts and crafts, soft music, and a soft-sounding movie. So please support that event, new event. Saturday, July 20th is next Cruisin' for Coffee at Santa Fe Steakhouse at Town Center Plaza. It starts at 8 a.m. And if you've never been to that event, I would encourage you, if you want to see some really cool cars. Everyone in eastern Oklahoma County brings out all kinds of Corvettes and hot rods, and it's a fun time. Warren Theater, we are happy to announce, is slated to open on July 25th. So we can start watching movies in Midwest City on July 25th in Warren Theater. So we are very excited about that. We anticipate a grand opening for Andy's Altitude 1291 Entertainment Center later this year, possibly as early as October. We're getting a lot of calls about Andy's Altitude. You can see the building going up quickly, and they are fast-paced as they can be to build that. And then finally, just watch closely. We're with new development at Sooner Rose Shopping Center, as we have announced, a Fuzzy's Taco. I'm not sure that, where's Robert Coleman at when we have a date on that? And Party Galaxy. 10-1 for Fuzzy's. Everyone's waiting for Fuzzy's Taco. I know I am. So we're looking forward to that. And there'll be more announcements at Sooner Rose as we continue to develop that power center. And Mayor, that's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you. We do have a proclamation to do, so we've made it a tradition over the last 3 years to ensure that our employees are recognized in every way, shape, and form. And one of them is as they retire from the city and go on to a new life, they deserve to be recognized. And so we've made it a tradition on this council to ensure that that happens. And we've done a lot lately, and unfortunately we're doing another one. This is Linda, and she served with us for quite a while, and she's going on to take care of her grandchild.
Help.
And so, but anyway, whereas Miss Linda Burnham began her employment with Midwest City in June of 2008 as an administrative secretary and is retiring in June of 2019. Whereas Linda has proven herself to be diligent, cooperative, dependable, creative, kind-hearted, and devoted to her work without complaint, thus enhancing the quality of work for her co-workers and bringing a high level of customer service to our citizens and colleagues. This lady, when you called her, you didn't get transferred. She found out where you need to go actually and got you to the point you needed to go. Whereas her newsletters brought joy to the employees, and she could continue or counted on to maintain a positive attitude. But she worked hard to get things accomplished with desired timeliness and coordinates projects well. Whereas because of her patience and courteous nature towards citizens and work colleagues, Linda excels at setting a wonderful example for others as a team player. So therefore, I, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim June 11th as Linda Burnham Day. We've already done this, but
I missed my day.
you in the city of Midwest City, and I just urge everybody to congratulate her and wish her well wishes for her new and coming life.
Sure.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get down to government business. We go into the consent agenda of our agenda. These items are placed on a consent agenda so that the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all council members or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. And I understand we do need to pull
Number 35, that's an addendum, and we'll take no action on it.
Pull number 35 and take no action on it. So the chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve and exempting 35.
Yeah.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We go into the first discussion item.
Discussion item number 1, PC 1997, public hearing with discussion and consideration of an ordinance to redistrict from C1 restricted commercial to C3 community commercial for the property described as part of the southeast quarter of Section 1, Township 11 North, Range 2 West, addressed at 9925 Southeast 15th Street. Mr. Harless.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. This 1 acre area of request is the site of the existing 7-Eleven store and also the area for the new tenant space. The zoning district requires a special use permit for the use of gasoline sales. The existing use is considered legal, non-conforming, and may remain as is. However, the code states that the non-conforming use expands, it must come into zoning conformance. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to C3 in order to come into conformance for the existing use and to allow C3 uses in the non-tenant space. Planning Commission and staff recommend approval.
Any questions or comments?
Billy, can you explain why this wasn't in compliance or what the issue is on it?
Yeah, it's often the case when you have a marginal use, and I say marginal just because alcohol sales, for example, or gasoline sales in an area in an existing use that will be considered non-conforming, so that if they ever expand or go out of use for a long period of time, there will be a chance for them to be reheard by the Planning Commission and stuff to make sure that, and the council to make sure that they're brought into conformance or that they're okay for the surrounding area. And that's the case here. They're expanding the use, and so it's time to see if it's appropriate for the area.
Any further discussion or questions?
Motion to approve.
This is a public hearing, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone has anything to add or discuss on this particular item. Hearing none, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is discussion item 2, PC 1990. PC 1998, discussion, consideration, or approval of the proposed preliminary plat of the Uline, described as a part of southwest quarter of Section 36, Township 12 North, Range 2 West, addressed as 329 King Avenue. Billy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lyon. This item is a request to subdivide a single parcel, a single 4.55 acre parcel into 2 individual parcels for single-family development. The proposed lots have frontage on King Avenue and are each over 2 acres in size, which well exceeds the minimum lot size of R6, which is about 6,000 square feet, single-family residential zoning district. The applicant is requesting a waiver to the requirement for half-street and sidewalk improvements. The water extension is required with the application. If the preliminary plat is approved, plans for the water extension must be submitted to the city engineer, and the water line must be installed and approved prior to application for final plat. Staff recommends approval, as does the Planning Commission. Glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, I apologize. First off, do we need to let the applicant speak before I do, or bring him up?
Is the applicant here in the audience? Could you approach the podium and please state your name and address, please?
My name is Stacy Dean. I live at 1439 Emmett Drive. And I'm proposing to replat this 5 acres as just 2 lots, single house on each lot.
So, and this is not questions really directed at you, Stacy. They're directed at Bill. I think everybody up here knows that I am not a fan of variances in any way, shape, or form. As I was talking to Billy earlier today, we do have code that says that if you're going to create a new neighborhood, new like this, you have to do street improvements, half the street, and a sidewalk. And variances are available. But my question is, let's look 20 or 30 years down the road. And somebody's come in and the map's a good idea, but if you go to the north of his property and you look, there's a pretty good chunk of land that seems to be owned by just a few people that goes all the way to Cardinal. If somebody comes in and develops that, that's big enough, they now have to have half streets and sidewalks. We're gonna have a patchwork, and we already do in some of our neighborhoods, where you've got some improvements that have been done, some sidewalks that have been done, and some areas that don't. I think it's time for us to start looking ahead, not to today or next month or next year, but 20 or 30 years from now, and making sure that we have got something in place, whether it is, Billy, you told me some ideas. I'll let you, because this is your area.
Sure. The questions of variances always comes up when people come in to develop, and especially splitting up 2 lots or 3 lots here and there. And so the subdivision regulations say that all public improvements shall be installed before that they can be built on. And so water, sewer, drainage, streets, sidewalks are public improvements. And so when you have a 5-acre tract or 4.5-acre tract that this is, and split it into a couple of 2-acre tracts, is it appropriate to come in and put half-street improvements on this and have a couple of 100 feet of brand-new curb and guttered concrete out to the center line, and then you have a sidewalk that's out the middle of nowhere? Well, the same works for drainage improvements. And so over the years, we've have developed an internal policy in the department that says that if it's not connecting to or going to be tied to a new development or a current piece of street or sidewalk or drainage improvement or the start or the end of a sidewalk, then we okay the variance for that. And a lot of the builders, developers, know that. So after thinking about your question earlier today, instead of requiring the half-street improvements, one of the things that may be appropriate would be to do in lieu of payments. So you establish either by frontage or by the amount of acreage a certain fee that could be put into the capital improvements program, and then earmarked for streets or earmarked for sidewalks would be one way of doing that. But in lieu of half-street improvements and in lieu of sidewalks or drainage improvements, go ahead and just get the funding for it, and that way they could be installed whereas needed in the city. And then it's eventually this street, whether it's 10 or 20 years from now, will need a road upgrade and sidewalks. It would be their turn to get that. But that's the idea behind that.
So I got a question, and I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, Craig is going to kill my deal. I can't kill your deal. I usually vote no on all variances. I'm going to vote no tonight. I hope the council actually votes yes on yours. Because what I'd like to see is Billy is bring everything to the committee, ordinance committee, about his ideas. And I vote no out of just principle. I don't like variances, period. I don't think you should make it this far and me get up here and say, well, we need to kill this because of this thing. And so the council's going to do what they wish. I'm going to vote no for that very reason. And Billy, if you could bring this to the...
I am improving the city water system and bringing it down.
Yeah, but so 20 years from now, if everything else is done and we've got that hole right there, you're not fixing it, we are.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to look forward to, is to make sure that we are looking 20, 30 years down the road instead of... And if we make it fair and even, and every person that does this has to pay the same amount, then the argument of, well, it's unfair because I have to sell it for more to make more money is not a good argument, because everybody's going to be having that same dollar amount that they'd have to pay into that fund if they choose not to go into those.
Billy, I'm sure we're not the only municipality dealing with this, correct?
Right, that's correct. It's going on, and in fact, I don't know the exact details in Oklahoma City, but it's been on the news over the last few years that they're going through similar growing pains. To just be honest, we're on a unsustainable glide path for public improvements and replacing infrastructure, and this is a way of either putting them into the beginning or replacing them. So what I was thinking is we could bring some samples to the committee, maybe a local Oklahoma City's or another, and bring some examples and a proposal that the committee can look at, and we can go from there.
Could you do an ordinance that gave them an either-or choice? You can either choose to do the half roads and the sidewalks or pay this
Sure.
this fee, and that way they can choose themselves what they want to do?
Sure, absolutely.
And it's an impact fee, right?
They're called different things: impact fees or capital improvements fees. I don't know if you can think of. Yeah, that's
Again, Stacy, I'm sorry. you got
impact
caught
fees
up
will
in
get
this.
you there.
That's
There'll be thousands of
I've been in
examples.
this town 55 years, I understand.
I would like to say a few things before we get,
Kelly, can you please turn the name down?
over the years, and Billy can, I mean, just about every lot split that's ever been done has always had some variances. Variances, I disagree with Sean. Variances, you have to have variances. I mean, there's no one rule that's gonna, it's like an HOA. I mean, if you gotta have variances because that allows you to have a little bit of change in some things that makes common sense, but it's like an addition, it's in the mid-block. Why require a developer to put sidewalks in when it's sidewalks that lead to nowhere? I mean, you see them out on 44th and Anderson in Oklahoma City, and it's a waste of money to put them in. It's a little
So
different.
then are you for paying a capital improvements fee then?
I think you need to be careful, like when we did the comprehensive plan, I felt like then, we need to be careful, because at some point, the developers and the builders are tapped out. And this lot split, it's gonna create an opportunity to have another, 2 nice homes to be built. And whether there's 1 home, 2 homes, or 0 homes, we're still gonna have to improve a lot of this infrastructure. And you gotta weigh out, do we want more houses, or do we wanna kill development? And I think the variances they've always been there. I mean, I would say there's probably been 500 or 1,000 lot splits over the last how many ever years, and every single one of them had a variance. And if they wouldn't have had the variances, there'd be 1,000 less nice new homes we'd have in the city. So I'm
Well,
kind
I-
of going
I-
totally against the opposite of
I
what
get
Sean's
it, and I
saying.
doubt we'd have 1,000 less homes, because if we were treating everybody fairly and everybody was charged the same in a capital improvement fund, then everybody would be on a level playing field. What I don't want to see 20 years from now is everybody's kids or grandkids out here having to pay for sidewalks and street improvements that we didn't think about today. And that's what we're going to end up having happen. And so while we want nice houses, we also don't want a generation from now looking back and saying, man, we have a whole bunch of these spots that we have to go fill in. Where are we going to get the money from?
Well, I'm the totally opposite of Sean, but that's my opinion, and I would vote yes on it.
Sean, I agree with you, and I agree with Jeff, both. If there's a split in a hair, I think, I don't want to discourage development, and I support what he's doing, but I also support the idea that Sean's trying to bring up, that it's not kill this, but plan for the future. And I think that's the problem that we've got right now, is that we may not have plan for the future. And if we research what Billy brought up about the capital improvement fees and the impact fees, and see if that is actually something that we could implement here where it doesn't adversely affect the developer. Because if Oklahoma City's doing it, there's the other municipalities will also be doing it, and we don't need to be the last one. And I support the guy splitting the lot. We need some houses, but I also think that we need to be careful that we're not taxing or putting additional funding that the next generation is gonna have to come up with. And if we can implement a fair and equitable policy now to keep from doing that, I think that's the way we should go.
Well, if it's not a lot of money, I agree, a fund would probably not be too bad. But
Well, and I think
just
Billy
from
will
going the
look at
old
it
lot
there.
split, where we used to do just a simple lot split procedure, you could do that for $300 or $400. Now you can spend, what'd you spend, 5, 6, 7,000?
45,000.
How much?
45,000.
Well, for your plat, just a survey to get this new plat stuff
$6,000.
done. So, you know, we're already, it's, the lot split deal is getting tapped out to where you're gonna see less and less of those anyway. So I'm just saying we need to be careful, or we're already seeing less development in residential. And if we go too hard on this, we're gonna see a whole lot less lot split development, or the small plats, is my point.
And Billy, can you clarify what you said earlier, that those capital improvements will talk about and implement things regarding flooding?
Yeah, depending on how the fee is proposed and enacted, those could be also, whether it's a street or a sidewalk or a sewer or water line, or drainage improvements. The same thing can be said. I mean, I'm not for dividing lots, is what I see as a problem here in the community. And the development part of it is development by lot split, where you just go out and divide a parcel in two, and we don't get the easements, we don't get the improvements, the drainage improvements aren't put in, and then the house is built on, and then later on, we have to go spend $10,000 or $20,000 to fix the drainage improvements because the developer didn't put them in. And that's, you all see that constantly. Same way with the streets.
Didn't you say earlier when we were talking that one of the fees is a sidewalk fee that builders pay on an average $2,000 square foot home? If they're not built to sidewalk, it averages $45 that they pay to the city.
Right.
You can't buy the concrete for a sidewalk for that $45. So if we're going to be replacing it down the road, and we're only getting $45 on a 2,000 or $90 on a 4,000 square foot home, those aren't. It's an embedded tax we're making a future generation pay for.
I agree. I had a thought, if you look at where our capital improvement money's going, I don't think much of the capital improvement money's going towards residential. If you look over the last few years, we keep sucking it out and putting it.
But we could wall that
I
off,
think
couldn't
we,
we?
you know,
I mean, we could wall all that off to where it stays for residential capital improvement, and you can't use it for something else, and use it exactly for what it's designed for. And I actually think you'd have a taxpayer lawsuit if we said it has to be for residential and we use it for something else anyway. I like that smirk. You're not sure, are you?
At some point in time, we are going to have to put our foot down. And you can drive all over the city and find patchwork of different development, and we've allowed this and we've allowed that. And I agree with Mr. Reed in the fact that at some point in time, we're going to have to do something. And the development by lot split, you know, it's,
Could I add that on King Avenue, there are no curbs or gutters for 1 mile in any
Yeah.
direction.
yeah, I agree with you, and that's one thing that's working in your favor.
You happen to be, like I said, this isn't an anti-your thing or an anti-Stacy thing, I promise you.
It's
This
just
is
a fundamental discussion that we as a government body we're going to have to deal with. So if there's no other questions or discussion, the chair would entertain a motion.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Mr. Dean, your plat passes. You're welcome. Good discussion. Thank you, guys. Next discussion item.
PC 1999, public hearing and discussion. Public hearing with discussion, consideration of approval of a resolution for a special use permit to allow the use of eating establishment, sit-down alcoholic beverages permitted in the C3 Community Commercial District for the property described as a part of the southeast corner of Section 4, Township 11 North, Range 2 West, located at 6805 Southeast 15th Street.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Peyton Weatherford. He's a Carl Albert grad. Grew up across the street from me and survived. And his dad was a entrepreneur for many, many years, and now he's stepping forward and taking in his dad's footsteps, and he's wanting to open up a restaurant in the old City Bites restaurant. So with that being said, do you have any questions or anything of the council, Peyton? Do you have any questions of Peyton? And this is, this is, entrepreneurship is the very basis of our nation's economy, and I want to congratulate you for stepping forward and trying this, Peyton, and we wish you the best of luck. So, any questions, comments, or any discussion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Welcome to the business community, Peyton. And he is a good chef. Thanks for being here, Peyton. Good luck to you.
What is the name of it? It's what now? Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, move into the next discussion item.
PC 2000, discussion, consideration, and approval of the proposed preliminary plat of the Piper Edition described as a part of the southwest quarter of Section 8, Township 11 North, R1 West, addressed as 2750 Hand Road. Mr. Harless.
Thank you, sir. This item is a request to subdivide a single parcel into two individual parcels for single-family development. Proposed lots have a frontage on Hand Road and are approximately 36,644 square feet, each which well exceeds the minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet for R6 single-family residential zoning district. The applicant is requesting a waiver to the requirement for half-street improvements and sidewalk improvements, as well as sanitary sewer extensions. The city is in the process of installing a water main along the frontage along this property, this area of request. The applicant did pay the $75 deposit, which will allow one lot to tie onto the system. An impact fee of $7,000 will be addressed at the time of building permit for the remaining lot. Planning Commission and staff recommend approval on this. Glad to answer any questions.
I think we did. A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
With the variance.
With the variance. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next discussion item.
PC 2001, discussion, consideration, of approval of the final plat of Oaks Crossing, described as a part of the southwest quarter of Section 31, Township 12 North, Range 1 West, addressed as 10225 East Reno Avenue. Billy.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. This is a request to approve a final plat to subdivide a 5-acre single parcel into 6 individual parcels for single-family residential development. The preliminary plat was approved in June of 2018. A sewer line extension was a requirement of the preliminary plat. That sewer line has been constructed and approved by staff. The applicant has also provided staff a copy of the covenants that will govern the development of this addition. The elements of the covenants meet or exceed the city code. As this is consistent with the approved preliminary plat, staff recommends approval, as does Planning Commission. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions or further discussion?
And he wasn't required to submit that cover stuff either. So
Um,
he actually went above.
He did do that because there's not really any common maintenance or anything like that, but there's some stuff about how the drainage will be taken care of, which we were glad to see that included in the covenants.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Next discussion item. Mr. Lyon.
Item 6, discussion and consideration of approving a 3% cost of living increase for all part-time and full-time employees effective July 1st, 2019. This would include both bargaining units as well. We have 2-year contracts with our FOP and our IAFF. In that contract, in the second year, is we set some benchmarks for sales tax revenue, and the benchmark was, in order to receive a 3% cost of living, our sales tax, use tax, and other fees, excise fees, fines and penalties had to exceed 4.25%. Our sales tax for the month of June was up 10.15% for sales and use tax, and that gives us a 4.75 for the year. We asked the finance department to go ahead, and even though we don't close out the books until about the middle of July when we can update all the fees that have been collected, but we went ahead and projected police and fire's budgets, both of which were in excess of 4.25. One is at 4.45 and fire's 4.38. So we would go ahead and recommend the 3%. This will allow us to implement it before July 1st. And that's where all the work has to be done by the payroll department, finance, HR, there's a tremendous amount of legwork that needs to be done. So, and it's a good faith effort also with our FOP as we're negotiating an MOU for health benefits for next year as well.
I appreciate all of our staff, whether in uniform or not, and they deserve this raise.
I concur. We would recommend this from the city manager's office, Vaughn and I.
Motion to pass.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Next item?
Item 7, public hearing with discussion and consideration to approve an ordinance closing a fire lane easement across 1103 South Air Depot Boulevard, shown as Lot 1, Block 6 of the replat of Blocks 1 and 2 of the replat of Bill Atkinson's Ranchettes, and lying in the southeast quarter of Section 4, Township 11, North Range 2, west of the Indian Meridian, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma, and providing for a repealer and severability. Once again, Mr. Harless.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Yes, this is usually an administrative thing on consent docket, but the old fire lanes used to be spelled out in an easement, and in order for O'Reilly's to expand, you throw up the next slide. In order for them to expand, and in this case it would be to the right, there's the hatched part with the new parking lane, that easement had to be removed, and so staff recommend approval on that so that we can create more tax dollars for more raises, which we certainly appreciate. Thank you.
Norton,
Yes.
have you looked at this?
They are or they have?
And they have,
Okay.
they're okay?
So just to clarify, those are used now. We just take care of those with red paint out on the parking lots that you see around. So instead of easements.
Any further questions or discussion? Chair would entertain a motion.
Second.
It's a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council considering this matter? Hearing none, I do have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we move into the new business public discussion of the Midwest City Council agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council? Please approach the podium and state your name and address and your purpose. Also, please be advised that since this is not an agenda item, we can't engage in a active conversation with you, but we would entertain talking with you afterwards or any other time. So, Thomas, the floor is yours.
Okay, my name is Thomas Owen, 2315 Shell Drive, resident here, pretty much 64 years of life. Thank you so much for at least giving me the time. Actually, I was instructed in this that it actually wasn't city business. By definition, I slightly disagree with that, but however, let me begin by saying we shouldn't be discussing this issue at all. As the material I provided to you says, and I am hopeful you spent time to look it over, and some of this, a small issue, but to many others, this is of extreme importance. The story of Columbus and many stories are complete fairy tales in relation to U.S. history, taught to us as misguided educational curriculum. It is said that history is written by the victors. For one, history never ends. As for Europeans and others, the New World immigrants, they were not victorious. Our native family is still here, even though many attempted genocide against them. Many facts, even documents, have proven these attempts, the doctrine of manifest destiny being one. Our native family stood, and after all the atrocities, they came forward and they stood honorably, side by side in wars and movements for the freedoms of this country. So I'm reading these notes, I go on rants real easy. This keeps me lined out. The commander at Tinker Air Force Base, Colonel Paul Philtrick, even admitted he was overwhelmed by the military history when he researched the history of Native soldiers in his wonderful speech he delivered at the Tinker Intertribal Powwow recently. I don't know if you were there. I hope it's recorded somewhere. You need to listen to his speech. He was overwhelmed. Please join with many communities across the nation to right this incorrect and wrong history. Don't fear ugly backlash or fallout from others against these actions. Only imagine some communities such as Oklahoma City even facing large groups and hundreds of thousands of citizens on this issue. As far as I know, repercussions were few, if any, whatsoever. A couple more quick thoughts and I'll finish. One of our dearest families, members, a friend, a brother of over 40 years, retired flight engineer AWACS, disabled veteran, soon to be retired serving with the FAA. His love for Midwest City. He always reminds, I will never ever leave here. I love it here. He's Puerto Rican. Point, Puerto Ricans are Taino, the tribe of Taino. If it weren't for the very few that escaped the horrors of Columbus, the tribe of Taino would not exist today. Help to give honor to their ancestors. To them, all the indigenous people of this land and all of the Americas. Why do I stand here? Why do I wear these colors, this vest, these patches? Because it is a return honor given to myself and my family for such representation to these beautiful people, our family. I will forever stand to right the wrongs of history for our native family. In conclusion, I ask the Day of Columbus be stricken and replaced by Indigenous Peoples Day and a proclamation stating this to be drafted. Columbus did nothing, not for the Italians, not for this country, nor anybody. He was a murderer, he was a thief, he was a rapist, he was a human trafficker. History proves this. I have had some news that perhaps this could be shared. I can only say one thing to that. Don't share it. Give them their own day. Don't make this Columbus and Indigenous Peoples Day. Not the same day. He's a murderer. And this is sharing it with the murdered. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Thomas. That concludes the agenda for the Midwest City Council. I would entertain a motion to go to recess
Yeah, we'll recess for,
and move on to the other agendas and then come back for the executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Midwest City Council stands in recess, and I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to.
hang on,
accept.
Mayor, we need to pull item 6 and take no action.
I'm sorry, that's correct. The motion should include striking item 6 and taking no action.
Motion to approve and strike item 6.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, move into the new business public discussion of Midwest City Municipal Authority. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. We do have a consent agenda. And once again, these items are placed on consent agenda so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We have 2 discussion items. Go ahead, Mr. Lyon.
C1, discussion and consideration of approving the following agreement with Capital Decisions, Inc. in the amount of $90,000 to continue to provide consulting services regarding economic, community development, and redevelopment interests in Midwest City for the period from July 1st, 2019 through June 30, 2020. Everyone's familiar with Capital Decisions as our lobbying group in DC to help us with grants and working on public works capital.
How much did you negotiate? You negotiated a pretty good cut in our fee to them every year,
Yeah,
didn't you?
they took a $50,000 cut in their fee, and they are going to eat all their expenses. There'll be no expenses on this. This will be the maximum amount they can charge us is $90,000. And I agreed to do it for a year to give us some working time to see what kind of progress we make on the assigned projects.
And I like that you did this for a year instead of every 6 months. So I make a motion to approve this issue.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Second discussion item.
Discussion, consideration of action to reallocate assets, change fund managers to make changes in the statement of investment policy, guidelines, and objectives. Says Sarah. We don't need any action on this item.
No action needed. Ladies and gentlemen, move into the new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Economic Development Authority. We have one discussion item.
Yeah, Economic Development Commission.
Yeah.
Have 2 items. Yeah, so discussion item 1 is discussion consideration of approving the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of April 23rd, 2019 is submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
Discussion and consideration of entering into a contract with the Midwest City Chamber of Commerce for fiscal year 2019-20 for $3,000 a month to implement economic development events in the city of Midwest City.
What does that get us? We have the world's best economic development guy. What does $36,000 get us for the chamber to implement economic development events for the city?
Primarily, what that money has gone for is tinkering the primes. It is allowed, it is a support to financially front the money for them to put that program on. And the program started out with nothing, and it is probably the most, this year will be the most successful that it's ever been.
So why don't we just fund that and not give them $3,000 a month?
Why don't we ask Robert what he thinks? If he's didn't you just say he's the world's greatest?
I think he's the world's greatest. Robert? I'm just trying to...
He's hard of hearing all of a sudden, isn't he?
I'm just trying to figure out if $36,000 a year to the chamber is a good expenditure of our dollars. I understand Tinker and the Prime, and you said the majority of our money went to there, and I mean, it's on the agenda. You've already told the chamber they get it. They need to get it this year, but I think we need a little bit more of an accounting than most of it's spent on Tinker and the Primes.
Robert and I was asking your opinion on it because he had,
I was saying nice things about you, and then he woke you up.
we got, I don't want to offend him, I'm kidding. We got Mr. Dillkiller over here.
Hey, I've had a lot worse names than that called to me in my life. Thanks, Jeff, for a very nice name. Are we getting $36,000 worth of economic development use in this contract? You don't need to answer now, but next budget, we need to think about it.
I think we are. I think Tinker and the Primes brings a lot of money to town that wouldn't normally be here. Fills up the hotel rooms, brings a lot of business to the restaurants, and has a tremendous impact on the defense and aerospace community that's in Midwest City that not a lot of people realize till there's a headline in the Oklahoma Journal-Record.
Well, but I've got no problem with Tinker and the Primes. Yeah, I agree with Tinker and the Primes, but where's the rest of the money going? Because they don't spend the entire $36,000 on Tinker and the Primes.
I haven't seen merchants, so I'm not sure.
So next year,
Yeah,
budget time.
good portion of it does.
I know, but next year budget time, I think
A
we
good
should kinda look
portion
at
of it
that.
doesn't.
Okay.
And not only is Tinker and Prime's just a local event, it's an international event. We'll have people from 28 different countries coming into our community.
Well, I'm all for Tinker and the Primes. I'm just, if we're spending $30,000 on Tinker and the
Well,
Primes, where's the other $6,000 going?
primarily, it's been since its inception, been the brainchild of the chamber, and that money.
I'm all in favor of Tinker and the Primes. I'm 100% backing it. What I'm saying, if they're spending $30,000, let's get a reckoning on where the other $6,000 is going.
I don't think there'll be a problem with that at all.
Yeah, we'll take care of that for next year.
The chamber helps a lot in things that, again, don't necessarily make headlines. They've been working with Claudia and I to help with the grand opening of the movie theater, and they help with other business retention efforts.
But that's kind of their job as a chamber to do those things anyway. And that's what their dues and their members' dues pay for.
Takes money.
That $36,000 also covers part of our dues as the city.
I'm just curious where the money is, and would like to see where if it's all being spent
I don't think that'll be a
on
problem.
Midwest City Economic Development.
Thank you for the other earlier comment. We see that out.
Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Move into the new business public discussion of our agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the commission? Hearing none, we're hereby adjourned, and we return back to the agenda for the Midwest City Council and entertain a motion to reconvene.
We need an Economic Development Authority.
Okay, why is
Yeah,
my
that's why it's
paperwork so
confusing.
jacked up here? Do what? Okay, disregard going back to the council, we will now convene the Midwest City Economic Development Authority. We do have one discussion item on this agenda.
Discussion, consideration approving the minutes of the special meeting on June 11th, 2019 is submitted.
Motion
Chair to
to
entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We now move into the new business public discussion. Does anybody have anything to bring before the Economic Development Authority? Hearing none, we do have an executive session. Mr. Lyon.
Executive session, D1, discussion, consideration of entering into executive session is allowed under 25 Oklahoma Statute 307B3 to discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property and an open session authorizing the general manager administrator to take action as appropriate based on the discussion in executive session. So we'll read.
Okay. I, Chair, would entertain a motion to go into executive session under the Economic Development Authority. I've got a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstention? We now move back to the Midwest City Council agenda, and I entertain a motion to reconvene. Motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstention? We reconvened, and we do have an executive session for this agenda.
F1, discussion and consideration of entering into executive session is allowed under 25 Oklahoma statute, section 307B4, to discuss pending litigation.
Chair, to entertain a motion to go into executive session. Got a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstention? And ladies and gentlemen, we're now in executive session. We'll not be returning to the council chambers.
Yes, we'll go upstairs.